Go!
This is my video update on this Thursday afternoon, June the 20th. Let's talk about some news. And let's start things off with, how about a tweet from Ursula von der Leyen, who posted on Twitter X, "I welcome the agreement on our 14th sanctions package against Russia. This hard-hitting package will further deny Russia access to key technologies. It will strip Russia of further energy revenues and tackle Putin's shadow fleet and shadow banking network abroad." Putin's shadow fleet and shadow banking network will be in tatters. Tatters, I tell you. Tatters. Sanctions package number 14. Wow. Expect Russia's GDP to go to 7%, 8%. Maybe 10%? I don't know. I don't know. Russia's economy will be in tatters. They are taking chips from dishwashers and washing machines and using shovels. 14 sanctions packages later, and the Russian economy is still standing. It's not only standing, it's growing a whole lot more than the economies of the collective West. How many more sanctions packages must the EU approve in order to sink the Russian economy? It's like the roadrunner chasing the coyote chasing the roadrunner. Beep, beep. Roadrunner, the coyote's gonna get you. Bad. Ursula's the coyote and Putin's the roadrunner. Launching her acme gimmicks to try and catch the Putin. Beep beep. The Putin economy, the Russian economy. Oh my God. The true definition of insanity right there, folks. 14 sanctions packages. But this one's going to really work. This 14th one, this one's going to close all the loopholes, right? All the loopholes that our 14 sanctions packages caused. Well, this one's going to close them up. Oh boy. All right, so the other big news that came out yesterday afternoon, evening, was the speech / statement from Hezbollah's Nasrallah, who threatened Cyprus. Bro, Nasrallah, why are you threatening Cyprus? What exactly did Hezbollah's leader Nasrallah say? If Cyprus opens its airports to Israeli warplanes, we will attack Cyprus too. We have intel that the Israeli Air Force is training in Cyprus to use its airports. We warn Cyprus, if it opens its airports to Israel during a potential war, we will treat it as part of the war. So that was Nasrallah's warning to Cyprus. Was it really a warning to the Republic of Cyprus? Not really. Not really. This was a warning to the air bases in Cyprus, which are BOTS, British Overseas Territories. So the British have air bases in Cyprus. Cyprus used to be a British colony, a commonwealth, and the British have retained some air bases in Cyprus, overseas territories of which the government of Cyprus has no control over. No control, no oversight, nothing, nada, zero, nichevo. So these British air bases in Cyprus in the past have been used to launch military operations, and it is believed that these air bases are being used today to launch military operations. That is what some analysts believe. And so this warning from Nasrallah is directed at these air bases, yes, located in Cyprus, but not under the control of the Republic of Cyprus. The president, he responded to Nasrallah, and I think I have his response. I must have his response bookmarked. If you give me 1 second, I will find it. Here we go. President Nikos Christodoulidis responded to Nasrallah's threats, saying Cyprus remains uninvolved in any military conflicts and positions itself as part of the solution rather than the problem. Speaking to reporters at the graduation ceremony of the University of Cyprus, Christodoulidis stressed Cyprus's role as a humanitarian facilitator, which is recognized globally and particularly in the Arab world. Cyprus is not part of the problem, it is part of the solution. That is what the president of Cyprus said. So I'm not in Cyprus at the moment, but I spoke to people in Cyprus and I asked them what's going on, what's the vibe like in Cyprus, given that the world is talking about Nasrallah's threats towards Cyprus. And the response I got was that the government is concerned, absolutely concerned, but not panicking. Concerned, but no panic. Concerned because Hezbollah absolutely has the capability to strike Cyprus. They can reach Cyprus. They have the weaponry. They have the missiles. And Nasrallah, when he puts out these threats, when he says something, he should definitely be taken seriously. So there is a lot of concern. But from what I understand, from what people told me in Cyprus at the moment, the Cypriot government, they're working with the European Union to speak with Iran so that Iran can de-escalate the situation with regards to Hezbollah and the threats made towards Cyprus. And from what I understand from many of the Cypriot analysts that have weighed in on these threats, they are saying that most likely Iran will be able to communicate with Nasrallah to not escalate to Cyprus, because this would just widen out the conflict. If we do get to a point where we have a conflict, or if we're very close to a conflict, then striking at Cyprus, striking the British territories in Cyprus, not only pulls in Cyprus, not only pulls in the UK, but of course it has the potential to pull in the European Union or EU member states as well, and it could widen out the war and cause a whole lot of chaos. So that is what many Cypriot analysts are saying, and there is some fear and uncertainty in Cyprus as well, because a government has not been put in place in Iran, and there's just some general concern about not having a stable government in Iran to to communicate with Hezbollah and with Nasrallah, but I don't think that's so much of a concern as far as Iran and Hezbollah goes. I imagine the communication between Iran and Hezbollah is unchanged because of the change in government or the elections that are coming to Iran soon. So anyway, that's the situation in Cyprus, everybody. Concern, no panic, and they're working the diplomatic back channels to at least calm things down with regards to Cyprus. But everything that Nasrallah is threatening is not connected to the Republic of Cyprus. It's connected to the British overseas territories, the air bases in Cyprus. That's just the reality of Cyprus. We have these air bases, which are controlled by the British. It's just the way it is. So, what next? By the way, the aircraft carrier, the Ford aircraft carrier, is moving quickly towards the Mediterranean. The U.S. aircraft carrier Gerald R. Ford and its accompanying fleet are urgently headed for the Mediterranean, specifically to the coast of Haifa in Israel. This comes after the Israeli army announced that the plan for invading Lebanon has been granted. So we also have an aircraft carrier group heading to the Mediterranean as well. Acting as a deterrent or acting as an accelerant to a conflict. We will see. So what next? How about Putin's trip to Vietnam and the general freak out that this entire Putin trip is causing in the collective West? How dare Putin go to North Korea and sign strategic cooperation partnerships and agreements? And how dare he go to Vietnam and sign cooperation and partnership agreements? How dare he? Who gave Putin the right, the permission to travel to North Korea and Vietnam and sign these deals with these countries? A freak out in the collective West over Putin's trip. And what a trip, what an itinerary from Russia and from the Russian president, huh? He goes to North Korea, signs all kinds of deals, financial, trade, military, big military deals. Russia's got your back, North Korea. You guys got our back. North Korea's like, hell yeah, we got your back. They sign a big military deal. And then he goes to Vietnam, North Korea, and then Vietnam. And you also have the Russian ships and a Russian sub in Cuba. Collective West is freaking out. They are freaking out. Who could have seen this one coming? Who could have seen this coming? Sanctioning Russia 16,000 times. Fueling a proxy war in Ukraine. Your ultimate goal is the removal of the Russian president. A regime change, color revolution in Russia. Who could have foreseen that if something goes wrong, something ever so slightly goes wrong, that Russia may take some actions to strengthen its relationship with China, with Iran, maybe partner up with North Korea and Kim Jong-un, make a whole lot of deals with a whole lot of countries in the global south, in South America and Africa and Asia, grow BRICS, expand BRICS. Who could have seen this coming? What a shock and what a surprise. Russia's moves are such a surprise to the collective West. The Wall Street Journal is saying as much. They put out an article saying that U.S. intel is shocked. They're absolutely shocked, struck by the speed and extent to which Russia has strengthened its security relations with Iran, North Korea, and China since the outbreak of the conflict in Ukraine. Military cooperation has grown closer since February 2022 and has seen the allies share sensitive technologies that could threaten the United States and its partners long after the conflict in Ukraine ends. Russia and its allies have entered into agreements to jointly produce weapons which improve the long-term capabilities of all parties. Yep, the allies, the axis of evil, is what Biden calls them. That's what Kirby calls them. Blinken, Lindsey Graham, the axis of evil. They have strengthened their security relations. Iran, North Korea, China, Russia, since the outbreak of the conflict in Ukraine. It's just an outbreak. It's just an outbreak, you know? It's just one of those things that happens. An outbreak. We didn't fuel any of it. None of it. There was no Western-sponsored coup in 2014, no building up of the military, no building up of Azov, no building up of the Banderites, no provoking Russia. This was unprovoked. There was no provocation, unprovoked. It was an outbreak of a conflict in Ukraine. And since that outbreak, Russia has strengthened its relations with North Korea and China and Iran and Vietnam and dozens of other countries. The Wall Street Journal is stunned. It's shocked. U.S. intelligence is stunned. They couldn't see this one coming, everybody. Who would have ever guessed that Russia would have strengthened its ties with China? Who would have ever guessed? I wouldn't. I wouldn't. My guess was that Russia was just going to sit there quietly in the corner and just take all of the abuse that the collective West was throwing at it. That was my guess. I mean, you know. Anyway, that's the article from the Wall Street Journal, and let's stick with Project Ukraine because we got some more Zelensky panic. That's right. We got Zelensky panic. He is now banning another political party in Ukraine. A Ukrainian court has banned the Nash Krai, Our Land political party, and ordered the seizure of its assets at the request of the Ministry of Justice. The move is the latest in a crackdown on the opposition under Zelensky's administration. Ukrainian democracy in action, right there. The banning of yet another opposition party. Collective West values, human rights, Ukrainian democracy. There it is. There it is. The collective West is becoming Ukraine, and Ukraine is becoming the collective West, going after political parties, banning political parties. Isn't Germany still going after the AfD, trying to ban the AfD? I believe they are. If you can't beat them, ban them. So from what I understand, not only is Zelensky banning the Nash Krai, the Our Land political party, but he is seize, not freeze, all of their assets, all their money, all their property, all their homes, all of it. He's taken all of it. Now, this wasn't a big party in parliament, but they had big representation locally in cities and towns and villages, regions. They made a big dent in the political landscape on a local electoral level. In the parliament, I believe they had a low representation. But look, They were in the parliament. Now they're banned. And their assets are being seized, not freezed. So that's Zelensky. He's panicking. He is panicking, removing the opposition. The whole legitimacy thing, it has gotten to Zelensky in a big way. It is really freaking him out, the question of his legitimacy. And the fact that the Swiss Peace Summit was a complete disaster. The very vehicle that Zelensky was using in order to prop up his legitimacy as Ukraine's president, the fact that this was a catastrophe, it's driving him mad. It's driving him crazy. She drives me crazy. Yeah, and Russian intel, they're now saying that the West is about to drop Zelensky. They're about to expunge him. That is what Russian intel is saying. They're going to expunge Zelensky, and in his place, they are going to put the former commander-in-chief of the Ukrainian army, Zelensky. He is considered the most suitable candidate to replace Zelensky. This is what Russian intel is saying. Now, this is Russian intel, so they're obviously messing with Zelensky, obviously, because they too understand that Zelensky is paranoid and in a panic, and so they're going to mess around just a little bit more with his mind. And Russian intel, they've said this before in the past. They've said that the collective West is going to drop Zelensky, and they're going to put someone else in his place. Maybe it's Zelensky, maybe it's someone else. But maybe this is good intel as well. Maybe Russian intel heard something. Maybe one of their sources in Kiev told them, look, Zelensky, he's going crazy. He's paranoid. We want to get rid of this guy. He's failing everywhere. His peace conference failed. The war is being lost. The conflict is a catastrophe. He's very unpopular in the polls. Zelensky does much better than Zelensky in polling. And so it's time for him to go. Maybe that's what some of the sources in Kiev are telling the Russians. Maybe they're in contact with some of the Western assets in Kiev, and the Western assets, they're telling the Russian assets in Kiev that the West wants to see Zelensky go. Maybe something like that is going on. You know, one of the Western spies sits down for a beer with one of Russia's sources in Kiev, and they start talking about Zelensky and how everyone wants to see him go. And Russia's source in Kiev calls up Russian intel and says, yeah, I just had a beer with Jim, who's working over at the CIA but stationed in Kiev. He told me that Mr. Burns and Jake Sullivan, they want Zelensky out. Maybe something like that is going on. I don't know. I'm just trying to picture it in my head how all of this intel is flowing. That's it. I doubt it's like that, but maybe it is. Maybe it is. Maybe they do sit down and have a beer and talk about everything that's going on, and then all of this information gets sent back to Russia or to the United States or whatever. Either way, they're definitely messing with Zelensky, Russian intel. They're definitely having fun with Zelensky because everyone understands that he is going crazy. Paranoid, cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, crazy. So yesterday, a lot of dogs in this park. Without a leash, just hanging around. Hanging around and enjoying a very hot day. That's why I'm not walking. I'm stuck right here in the shade, staying put. So yesterday there was another Russian missile strike at energy infrastructure in Ukraine. According to the Kiev Post, Ukrainian power plant damaged in another Russian assault on energy infrastructure. Zelensky said this month The aerial bombardments have halved the country's electricity production compared to a year ago, disrupting and limiting supplies for millions. So I believe nine missiles were launched and 27 drones were launched yesterday towards the energy infrastructure. And while the Ukrainian Air Force claims to have knocked down most of the missiles and the drones, one or two got past air defenses and did more damage to the energy infrastructure of Ukraine. I believe the cities that were targeted were Kiev, Dnipropetrovsk, and what else? Vinnytsia as well. I think those were the cities that were targeted. Where is it? Do I have it bookmarked or not? Yes, I do. Yeah, Vinnytsia, Dnipropetrovsk, Donetsk, and Kiev regions, according to the Ukrainian Air Force, were targeted. So yesterday, the head of Ukraine's energy company, Ukrenergo, he was speaking to media, and of Ukrenergo, Kudrytsky, the head of Ukrenergo, Kudrytsky, he was speaking to the media, and he said, and I quote, "The Ukrainian energy system successfully copes with all challenges." And right when he was making these statements about how the Ukrainian energy system is A-OK, his feed is cut. He disappears from the screen. Now, I don't know if this is because of Russia's strikes on Ukraine energy infrastructure, or if Zoom went down, or Skype went down, or the internet disconnected. I don't know. I have no idea, but man, the timing, huh? As he was talking about how the energy system is all right and it's coping with the challenges, he goes blank. Amazing stuff. Le Pen is going to be no different than Meloni, according to Bloomberg, though Bloomberg is not phrasing it like that. Bloomberg put out an article and said Le Pen's party backs arming Ukraine, says no French troops. Ammunition from France must not trigger broader war, says Bardella, the leader of the national rally. No different than Meloni, huh? Even if Le Pen, even if her party wins big in a couple of weeks, and even if Macron decides to step down because he's pummeled in the upcoming elections, let's say Macron decides to go Audi 5000 and step down as president, possible, not likely, but could happen. I give it, I don't know, what would you give it? I give it 25, 30%. If he gets really hammered in the elections and National Rally does really well, then I would say 25 to 30%, maybe 40%. That Macron says no cohabitation. I'm not going to have Bardella most likely would be the prime minister. I'm not going to share power with Bardella and Le Pen's party. I'm Audi 5000. So even if all of this happens in a couple of weeks or a couple of months, Le Pen is going to continue to support Project Ukraine. The red line is the same red line that it appears Meloni has placed, which is no Italian troops in Ukraine, no French troops in Ukraine. So the whole strategic ambiguity concept, theory, narrative that Macron created, the whole strategic ambiguity thing is over. That's a plus. The minus is that Le Pen is going to continue to support Project Ukraine by sending weapons and money. That's how it looks. going off of this Bloomberg article. So should we do a clown world? Do I have a clown world for today? By the way, did you see the gift that Kim Jong-un gave to Putin, to the Russian president? Two rare Pungsan breeding dogs, according to the Korean Central News Agency. That was the gift that Putin received from North Korea, from Kim Jong-un. Beautiful dogs. From what I understand, these are hunting dogs. Very smart, very beautiful, very rare. Dogs that are bred only in Korea, from what I read. So I thought that was interesting. The U.S. pier for Gaza aid, according to the New York Times, is failing and could be dismantled early. Remember the video I did in Athens, where I actually showed the pier, how it was swishing and swooshing with the waves, and it had the porta potties on the pier. It was one of my clown worlds. Yeah, the pier is going to be dismantled, and a piece of that pier broke off. It looks like that's what was it, 230 or was it $320 million gone, lost. What does the New York Times say? Officials hope a looming deadline will pressure Israel to open more land routes into the territory, which is facing extreme levels of hunger. That is what the New York Times is reporting with regards to this pier. Oh, and finally, let's do a clown world. And I'll play a video of Brian Stelter, who was once employed by CNN. Now he's on CNN just as a correspondent. And he said that everything that we're seeing with regards to Professor Biden, all the mumbling and the gaffes, and especially the freezing, all of this stuff, it's just cheap fakes, not even deep fakes. It's cheap fakes. Listen to what Stelter told CNN.
You know, the White House press secretary used the phrase cheap fakes, the idea of cheap fakes. Let me explain what that is to people. We've been worried for years about AI deep fakes, that computer-generated images are going to trick people into believing something that's totally false. Cheap fakes are a little bit simpler. They're cheap. They're just distorted, out-of-context videos, chopped up in certain ways, constructed in certain ways. That's what we're seeing. That's what the Biden administration, the Biden campaign is so worried about right now. But make no mistake, they are worried about this. This is a real problem. This is not some made-up fiction. The videos are oftentimes made up, but the problem is real. Because some of us, Abby, watch a 40-minute speech by Biden. We see the full context. Other people only watch a 5-second clip. And that's going to be something that's going to, I suspect, follow Biden for the rest of this campaign.
So that was Brian Stelter. Don't believe your lying eyes, everybody. As I said in my video update yesterday, just ignore it. Ignore it all. Is it real? Maybe. Is it AI? Maybe. Deep fakes? Maybe. Cheap fakes? Maybe. Who knows? Who knows? It's all so confusing. Just ignore it. Just ignore it and support Biden. Ignore it and vote Biden-Harris. They're leaning into it, which I actually think, I must say, out of all the options presented to the Democrats, to the DNC, outside of removing Biden, which is still a possibility, getting Biden to step aside, but if you take away that option, leaning into the freezing and the mumbling, I think that's the correct strategy. I really, really do. Lean into it, cause a whole lot of confusion, get people to question what they're seeing. Use your most powerful, greatest weapon, which is the media and the propaganda, and just lean into it. Biden freezing? Maybe, not really. Cheap fakes, deep fakes, who knows? Who knows? Stelter's saying, he speaks for 30, 40 minutes, 3, 4, 5, 6 hours, I don't know, 10 minutes, 50 minutes, 6 hours. He speaks a lot. look, everybody at CNN, he speaks a lot, right? And the far right, they take 20 seconds from an 8-hour Biden speech, and there you go, there you have it. It's a cheap fake. Biden is as sharp as ever, right? Oh boy. I wouldn't be surprised if they start saying that Biden, when he speaks, he's speaking for 2-3 hours, and the far right, they take just 20 seconds from Biden's 3-hour speeches. Everyone's like, 3-hour speeches. What are you talking about, Alex? I wouldn't be surprised if they start putting that narrative out there. But yeah, they're leaning into the whole Biden freezing up thing. Yeah. Yep. So that's that's the video, everybody. Oh man, the Duran.locals.com. We are on Rumble, ODYSEE, BitChute, Telegram, Rockfin, and Twitter, X, and go to the Duran shop. Use the code football24 to pick up some football merch. Take care.